The Netflix documentary Beckham was meant to be a defining project, an inside look at the legendary footballer's life, his triumphs, his struggles, and, most importantly, his enduring love story with Victoria. The director, Daniel Harris, had envisioned a documentary that would not just celebrate David Beckham's legacy, but also show the raw, unfiltered truth behind the fame. But as the project neared its final cut, tension brewed behind the scenes. Harris was left frustrated, no furious, after one particular moment between David and Victoria changed everything. The vision versus the reality. Daniel Harris had spent months embedded in the Beckham household, traveling with David, sitting through long interviews, and digging through hours of archival footage. He wanted the documentary to be intimate, exposing layers of David's personality that the public had never seen. Yet, the challenge lay in how much truth the Beckhams were willing to show. While David was more open than expected, sharing the emotional toll of his 1998 World Cup red card, his turbulent exit from Manchester United, and his struggles post-retirement, Victoria remained controlled, carefully curating her image, as she always had. But Harris had caught something real. And it was in that moment between David and Victoria that he thought he had struck gold. Until David decided to shut it down. The unscripted moment. It happened during an informal sit-down. Harris had asked Victoria about the early days of their relationship, specifically how they had balanced their careers while dealing with intense media scrutiny. Victoria gave her usual polished answer. It was difficult, but we supported each other through it. Harris pushed further. Was there ever a moment you thought, I don't know if this is going to work? Victoria hesitated for the first time. David, sitting beside her, glanced at her carefully. She let out a quiet sigh, as if battling an internal debate. And then, with a small smile, she said something unexpected. There were times, yeah, when the press got bad, when the rumors got out of control, when David was away so much, and I felt alone. The air in the room shifted. David's expression changed. His usually relaxed demeanor tensed slightly. Harris noticed the way his jaw clenched, the flicker of something in his eyes. He wasn't angry, but he was uncomfortable. Victoria continued, her voice softer now. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if this life was sustainable. But I stayed because I loved him. Because I knew, no matter how hard it was, we were stronger together. It was the moment Harris had been waiting for, the vulnerability, the honesty. But as soon as the cameras stopped rolling, David turned to Harris and said something that made his heart sink. The backlash behind the scenes. That part's not going in, David said firmly. Harris was taken aback. What? That was raw. That was real. David shook his head. We don't want it in. We, Harris challenged. Victoria was the one who opened up. David sighed, rubbing his forehead. She didn't mean it like that. She'll tell you the same thing. It was taken out of context. Harris couldn't believe what he was hearing. David, this is the most honest part of the documentary. It shows the sacrifices you both made. David's voice was calm but unwavering. It doesn't need to be in. Harris turned to Victoria, hoping she would fight for the moment, but instead, she gave him a small, polite smile, the kind that said this conversation is over. A battle of creative control. Harris wasn't new to dealing with celebrities and their carefully managed images. He knew he had to pick his battles. But this was the core of the documentary. Over the next few days, Harris tried to convince David to reconsider. He argued that the best documentaries weren't just about success. They were about struggle, about truth. He pointed out that audiences would connect more deeply with the Beckhams if they saw the real side of their marriage. David didn't budge. Harris then approached Netflix executives, hoping they would back him up. But they, too, were reluctant. The Beckhams had final approval over the footage. If David didn't want it in, it wasn't going in. Realizing he had lost the fight, Harris did something he rarely did. he sought. For days he carried a bitterness about how much influence David had over the final product. It wasn't about ego, it wasn't about winning, it was about the principle. The moment had been real, a glimpse into a marriage that had been tested and survived. It could have added depth to their story. Instead, it would remain on the cutting room floor. The fallout. The premiere of Beckham was a global success. Audiences loved it, critics praised it, and Netflix executives were thrilled. But Harris couldn't shake the feeling that it could have been better.